So here we have the large intestine. Now, the large intestine has a few main regions, but we're of course going to start at our ileocecal valve. This is where the small intestine is going to be draining its contents into the large intestine. Now, when we look at the large intestine, the first thing we're going to enter is this cecum area, thus ileocecal, okay? Now, this cecum is going to kind of extend down below the ileocecal valve, basically acts like a little bag where it's going to start catching stuff. However, this is all smooth muscle, so once again, we can push things through it. Now, hanging off of the cecum, we have the appendix or the vermiform appendix. If you've ever heard of someone having an appendicitis, what happened is some fecal matter came in here and blocked the appendix off, so we weren't able to get good blood flow through it. And the bacteria that were growing in here kind of grew a little bit uncontrolled and potentially growing some bad bacteria in here was able to grow uncontrolled. And sometimes these can burst open and lead bacteria into places that we don't really want it. So it can lead to lots of problems. But the appendix's normal function is that it's going to house good bacteria that is protected from the rest of the colon, so that should something happen and we get sick, we have kind of a house for all of the good bacteria that we have in our gut. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that bacteria are incredibly important to proper gut function. Without the normal flora that we have in our gut, we get way fewer B vitamins, way fewer K vitamins out of our food. B vitamins are especially important because this is where we get a lot of our energy from, or kind of not where we get our energy from, but where we get our sense of energy from. You'll notice that whenever you drink an energy drink like a Monster or something like that, it touts the number of B vitamins that they're actually able to give you. So without that, without the good bacteria, we lose a lot of those good functions there. And that's because the bacteria are in here and they're taking any carbohydrates or fats or proteins that they can find, and they are trying to digest them for themselves. However, as byproducts, they're producing things like CO2 gas and vitamins that we actually need so that we will actually still absorb those into the blood. So what we're really trying to do with our large intestine, though, is we're trying to take all of the undigested food that we had and get rid of it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it up past the cecum, and we're going to send it into our colon. Now, our colon has four major regions. We have an ascending, a transverse, so transverse going from side to side, descending, and then finally we have the sigmoid colon, which is down here. Sigmoid because it's making this little S-shaped region. And then finally we're going to go down into the rectum and then finally into the anal canal. So if our goal here then is to get rid of waste products, first and foremost, we just have to have a pathway to do that. However, keep in mind that at this point, the food is still in the form of chyme, which is that acidic, liquidy stuff, right? Well, we want to hold on to as much of that water as we can. So we're going to absorb as much of that water as we possibly can. But remember that whenever we're following water, we're also following a lot of important electrolytes like calcium, sodiums, potassiums. So this is where we're also going to be absorbing all of those things as well. Okay, so we're going to be reabsorbing water and in the process getting a bunch of the electrolytes from the food that we've just produced, while at the same time trying to eliminate undigested food. But the bacteria in here are digesting as much as they can, and they are helping us out in the process. Now, we're going to see some important structures associated with this stuff. Namely, you can see this little band of smooth muscle here. This is called the Taenia coli. And then kind of parts, the Taenia coli is going to act kind of like the elastic on a waistband. So it's basically something kind of to connect to, makes things a little bit stretchy, but this is also going to give us attachment sites for the smooth muscles, forming these little pouches in the small intestine called haustra. Okay, so these little pouches called haustra are basically a way for us to make little pellets of fecal matter by dehydrating things as much as they can. So much so that if you've ever been quite dehydrated, you'll notice that your feces tends to turn into these kind of little pellety shapes. They tend to just form these little nuggets. And those little nuggets are actually going to kind of show you exactly how large these haustra are. Okay. Now, so we're pushing things through the ascending, transverse, descending, and then sigmoid colons, all the while absorbing as many absorbing as much water as we need to, while at the same time trying to eliminate that waste. And then after we have done all that, we are going to store that fecal matter that we're ready to get rid of. We're going to store it kind of here in our rectum, so just above our anal canal. Okay, so we're going to store that feces that we're holding on to until we are ready to defecate. Now, to do this, we're going to start receiving some signals from our smooth muscles down here to say, hey, they're particularly from our internal anal sphincter says, hey, there is some force here. It is time to eliminate this. Once that is done, you will then relax your external anal sphincter once you are in a place where you can do so, and that is when you will eliminate the food. Now, the inside of the large intestines look quite different from the inside of the small intestines. That's because we aren't worried nearly as much about absorbing all these little tiny nutrients and spending 12 hours in doing so. So we don't have quite as much surface area, but we do still have these big folds. We have big, thick mucosal layers. Makes sense. Lots of blood vessels because we're still absorbing water, but we don't have quite as much surface area here. We don't have microvilli or we don't have villuses rather in our large intestines, but we do have even more lymph nodules. Makes sense since we're once again dealing with an area with lots and lots and lots of bacteria. Now, these little openings that you see here in the mucosa that lead to these little pores, these are what we call intestinal glands. That's because these are going to be important for making sure that we're secreting enough mucin to keep things nice and lubricated so that we can continue moving things through the system. So look at all the goblet cells here in these intestinal glands. Just a lot of mucin being produced. Once again, we have to make sure that because we're drying this stuff out, we need to make sure that we're at least giving some ability to help move things through the tubes. And of course, we have our muscularis that's going to be down here underneath our submucosa to make sure that we have all of the peristalsis that we need to continue moving things through the system.